Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this lecture, we will discuss about the liquid retaining structures. What kind of structures are basically under the effect of the water forces or any other liquid forces, and what are the different design criterias for those, and how to deal with the different kinds of liquid retaining structures. Mainly, this lecture is referred from the book by J.K. Green and Perkins and R.D. Ankus. In addition, there is also a special code of ACI 350, which we can follow for design of liquid training structures. Because this is a separate class of the structures, so that's why we have to follow the different codes. Some of the parameters of ACI 318s are also present, but in addition, we have to see the another code. If you are designing by BS, then you can follow 5337 also. Of this topic is includes storage tank, reservoirs, swimming pools, elevated tanks, ponds, and the basement walls. The wall that we discussed in the retaining wall design, that was mainly a one-way wall, or it was a separate individual walls. There was a no case where two-way action or two-way bending in the wall uh, present or not. Normally in the cantilever retaining wall, that is not the case. But if you go for the design of the basement wall, let's say, or sometime the water tanks, the two-way action is also present. So somehow we have to change the design. In addition, the type of forces that also change, and the structural system also changes. Mainly the design objectives in case of liquid retaining structure is not limited to only the strength, but in addition the durability aspects and the limited deflection and cracking aspects are also important. Because these structures are very critical, so we cannot allow during the design time period that any crack should develop in the structure. How can we control the crack, and how can we increase the durability of the structures? That should be an additional aspect that you need to consider. So the liquid should not allow to leak or percolate through the structures. Mainly, the fundamental requirements include that without the undue maintenance and adequate cover to reinforcement basically is necessary, and the concrete must be of good quality. We can use special cements. We can control the permeability of the structures. We can use the additional admix actually in the concrete, so that the basically the microstructures of the liquid retaining structures is such that it is not developing any kinds of the durability problems in the structures. Fundamental design methods historically actually was the working design method for the liquid retaining structures. The stresses are small, so this was at the cost of heavy sections. More recently, the limit state design methods have also been introduced, and in addition, the strength design method, ultimate strength design method can also be followed. We can check by both the methods, the allowable stress design method and the working stress design method. So the method which is better, or which is giving the heavy reinforcement, can be basically selected, and this is because of the durability aspect also. We are making the structure strong actually, but durability can be obtained when we are not allowing the stresses beyond the yield stress. We are not allowing any crack in the structures. So this is one major difference, that at which stage we should consider the structures. A little knowledge of the working stress method will also be needed for the design of the water tanks. Then the structural layout, because normally what is given to you for designing of the liquid retaining structures, the given is the only the capacity, that how much, what should be the capacity of the water tank. So you can decide any suitable layout. The space is available normally. You can select a circular tank, a rectangular tank. You can select a multiple column system, frame structural system. You can select a central core system or a shear wall system. How to support the structures. So that is important, that the layout of the proposed structures and the estimation of the member site must be made prior to the detailed analysis. Structural scheme should be considered from the viewpoint of the strength, serviceability, ease of construction, and cost. All these things need to be considered, that how much is the volume of the concrete actually you are using for making the tank. So different options can be selected, and the suitable one, which is actually first requirement, is a stability, and then is the economy. So first we have to see the structure should be stable against the water loads, its own self weight, and other environmental loadings, which include the wind loads and earthquake loads. In addition, you can save the concrete by making a tapered section, as you know that the forces are normally minimum in case of the walls of the tank. So you can make a tank in which basically in like that, because it's a tapered, and here you will use the more volume of concrete, and this is fine, but here you can avoid the sudden change in cross section to avoid the concentration of the stresses. It is good practice to carry the structure load directly possible to the foundations and using the minimum structural elements. Lesser are the number of structural elements, it's better, and it is preferable to design the cantilever wall as tapering slabs rather than as counterfort wall, because you need the extra space for the counterfort walls. So better is to make a wall simple, strong cantilever walls as a major structural element, and then transferring the load through the raft to the base. Sometimes you are designing the water tower, which is comprised of the multiple compartments, more than one compartment. It can be 4 compartments, 9 compartments. So, as per the area requirement for the larger societies, the multi-cell water tower is constructed, and it's behaving just like if it is an in-ground water tower. Its base slab can be designed as a flat slab, inverted flat slab, because the load on the water tower is actually, when it is empty, the soil load is also present. Even it is a full, then the water load is considered. Underground tanks and pools are simple structures, because its height are sometimes lesser. You can use the constant thickness of the walls. Floor should be of also constant thickness. Sometimes the variation in these structures interacted with the soil, it's difficult, and we want that the thickness should be constant. For designer, there are some more points that you must mention: the method of the construction, and on the drawings, and location of the joints is also necessary. Where the water stopper is needed, the key needed to be provided where the work can be stopped, because sometimes the structure is large, and whenever the work is stopped and the concreting pouring is finished, then you have to provide there the joints. The different types of joints which are provided in the water retaining structures, it can be construction joints or contraction joint also, because when the sizes of the structure is quite larger, then we are going for the movement joint to accommodate the different kinds of movement, which includes the expansion joint and the contraction joints. The kickers can also be provided. You can give some projections and where you can make the formwork. Formwork can be tightened against the kickers, and then the floor panels can also be casted in one operations. So we are giving some projections in the base slab wherever the wall is started, so that the shuttering can also be fixed when the structures are not doing interaction with the soil. The soil at foundation level exert some pressure, and how can we control this force, because there is a soil underneath, and soil is exerting some pressure, so there must be some blinding concrete under the base slab, otherwise the crack can develop, because um, soil can move on two sides, and directly placing the structural slab on the soil is not advisable. These kinds of cracks can be developed if we don't provide layer of the blinding concrete, and the polythene sheet can also be provided, and the blinding concrete should be provided so that the direct interaction of the soil with the structural element of a tank can be avoided. Foundation and floor slabs are quite larger in size sometimes, so we can pour those in sections of convenient sizes. And section can be terminated at a construction joint or movement joint. If you feel that there is a quite lengthy base slab, you can finish that pouring till the joint is basically reached. And if you feel that the joint cannot be reached and we have to finish the work earlier, or then we can pour till the construction joint, or if the work is smaller and you have to start the walls on the next day, then the construction joint can also be provided. But we have to see that whenever the joints are provided in these water retaining structures, then the water stopper is also needed. So these joints are not the conventional joint like slab and beam. These are a special type of joints where the water stopper cannot be avoided. And during the construction also, the sequence must be followed. You have to follow that which is 1, 2, and 3. That is one is right, and this sequence should not be followed, because otherwise this can be developed of problems here at interface. Again, the crack can be developed when you are starting from the two opposite sides. Coming to the structural actions, so what kind of forces are basically acting on the liquid retaining structures? Mainly the liquid retaining structures are required to resist horizontal forces due to the liquid pressures. This is understood, but what kind of forces? There are two ways in which the pressures can be contained, and one way is to by direct tension or compressions, and the another way is the flexural resistance. This all depends on the shape, that how you are making the shape of the liquid retaining structures. If I am making a R shape on water side, if it is a convex R shape, parabolic type shape, an ideal arch shape, then it can be in pure compression. It is possible that we can design like arch dams are built on this philosophy, where there is no tension in the structure, in the major uh, core core wall of the dam or any other liquid retaining structures because of the shape. But it can also develop some tension. For example, if this is a hollow circular well, the inner wall will bear a compressive force from outside because of the water load, whereas the outer wall will take the tension because of the water load. So this outer wall have to be designed for the hoop tension, and the inner wall is to be designed for the compression. So in this way, the shapes are basically affecting the design of the liquid training structures. Now coming to the flexural, when you are making a tank simple rectangular, straight, shell type of elements, then there is a bending moment because this plate element, rectangular plate will bend and it will develop certain type of flexural stresses. If you see the wall, vertical wall or base slab of a simple rectangular tank, so it will bend. So due to the water load, it will develop that when tension on one side and compression on other side. Similarly, the base slab, it will also bend. So when there is a tension on one side and the compression on the other side, it is a basically the flexural stresses are developed in case of the liquid training structures. So we have to see that what kind of forces needed to be considered. Now the critical loading states are now necessary because if it is an in-ground tank or overhead tank, we have to see the extreme conditions for the design of the tank. For example, for in-ground tank or even an overhead tank, we have to consider the tank is full, condition number one, and the liquid pressure is present and no pressure from the outside. Second condition is tank is empty, water pressure is zero, and the soil pressure or the wind pressure from outside is present. So these are the critical conditions. We have to design all the structural elements for critical conditions, whether it is a wall or it is a base slab, we have to go for the critical conditions. So designer have to consider whether the sections of the complete reservoirs are empty or either these are full. Design the each structural element for the maximum movement and forces that can occur. We cannot say that only the water is present and ignore the other forces. Or we cannot say that only the soil is present because both of these forces are giving the opposite effect. Similarly, when you are going for the water compartments, design of the water tower, which is a multi-cell compartment, then condition if it is an in-ground water tower. Now the conditions are different for the compartment A and compartment B, and you need to design at least 3 compartments to design this full. One is the edge compartment, one is the interior compartment, and one is the corner compartment, because in all the cases the forces critical conditions are different. For compartment A, when it is empty, then you have to make these 3 compartments at least full and soil load is present. And when compartment A is full, then other all loadings are not considered and only the water load on all walls are considered, and these are giving the opposite effect. Similarly, for compartment B, when it is empty, then these 4 loadings are present, and when this is full, then outer loadings are not present and only the inner load is present. So effect of these both critical conditions are opposite. So this needed to be understand. The analysis is not difficult, but the critical forces, first deciding the critical forces and then applying those relevant forces on the walls and base slab, which are giving us the critical effect, and designing for those will be basically the task for designing the water tower. So these are the summary of the conditions. You can read it. External reservoirs are often required to support the soil fill. Reservoir is empty, then full water load is considered. Soil pressure and surcharge is when it is empty, then the water load is not considered. Soil and surcharge from the vehicle is considered. And when it is reservoir is full, then no load is considered from the passive earth pressure or surcharge that is not present, and only the water pressure is considered. Similarly, there are certain guidelines for foundation. The soil should be uniform underneath so that the settlement can be avoided. If the soil is non-uniform, we should divide the structure into parts and make the separate footing for both. Similarly, the use of cantilever walls is good, but it will exert a more pressure at the base. So the foundation should be capable to carry all the forces which are developed in the walls, because finally these forces are transferred to the base, and from the base these forces are transferred to the soil. And soil should be capable to take all these forces. It should not settle or it should not fail in bearing. And if the soil is inundated by water under the base of the tank, then we have to check for the uplift. Necessary soil parameters needed to be considered for that. And if we feel that there is a water also, we can make some beam arrangement into the walls, and connecting cross beams can be done so that a one unit structure can be more effective against the water uplift. Or we can increase the base length on all sides. We can provide the heel on the tank on all sides. In this way we can control the uplift. Or we can increase the wall spanning horizontally, mean that we can increase the depth of the tank, because when the area of the tank is less, it means height is more and weight will also be more. So lesser area, lesser uplift, and more weight, so more downward force. Normally the downward force should be larger than the uplift force. So there are different conditions, wall spanning vertically and wall spanning horizontally. It depends that what is the width over height ratio for the wall. If the B over H is larger than 2, then definitely it means that the wall is spanning in vertical direction. Normally for the larger water towers, larger tanks where the area is large, we have to design the wall in vertical direction. It is one way in vertical direction. And when it is a one way in horizontal directions, when the wall spanning D over H is less than 0.5. So in between 0.5 to 1 is the next case, which is a two-way wall. Either it is a one way in vertical direction when B over H is larger than 2, and when B over H is less than 0.5, it is one way in the horizontal direction. And if it is 0.5 to 1, 0.5 to 2, it is a two-way wall. So our lecture here I am going to stop, and we will further discuss about the forces on the one-way wall, one way in vertical direction, one way in horizontal directions, and two-way walls, and how to design the rectangular water tanks. So we will continue from this. Uh, the summary of this lecture was mainly the scope of the water tank structure design, and how to place pour the concreting in the water tanks. What should be the selection, the structural elements for the water tanks, how you select the different structural elements, and what are the critical forces acting on the water tanks, and what are the one-way and two-way walls for the water tanks, and what are the different kinds of forces, shapes of the tank by which you can contain the liquid pressure through the compression, through the axial tension, or through the flexion. So rectangular tank will have the flexural forces. We will continue with the design of this rectangular tank. Thank you.